Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning Instagram fam, friends and followers of as-Saafiy. Welcome brothers and sisters to another episode in our running series Revert Reflections. And currently we have been speaking under the theme, what sets Islam apart from other faiths? And this week specifically, we have been talking about how Islam differs from other faiths in terms of viewing and observing festivals and celebrations, holidays. And today we said that we would take up the Islamic ruling on holidays. We'll talk about what does Islam say about the celebration of holidays generally. Is it completely legal unless we have proof to the contrary? Is it completely illegal unless we have proof to the contrary? Is it one of those things that's kind of a matter of choice? We want to look at that today, inshallah ta'ala. The basic rule in Islam, brothers and sisters, when it comes to holidays is that they are prohibited unless specifically permitted by Allah or His Messenger. And I'll provide two pieces of evidence to this effect or to support this in this session, although there is a plethora of evidence that could be cited to indicate this fact. The first piece of evidence comes to us from the Quran. Surah Al-Furqan, the 25th surah of the Quran, verse number 72, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. He says, and those who do not witness falsehood. And if they pass by some wicked form of enjoyment, they pass by it with dignity. Brothers and sisters, the experts of Quranic exegesis, the experts of Quran interpretation from the early period of Islam, scholars like Abu al-Aliya, Tawus, Muhammad ibn Sirin, Al-Bahak, and I understand that for some people, especially recently converted Muslims, these names might not mean anything to you. But these are some of the greatest commentators and experts on Quran commentary in Islam from the early period. They were all in agreement that this verse that we just mentioned from Surah Al-Furqan, it refers to the holidays of the pagans. In other words, Allah is saying in this verse, when He says they do not witness falsehood, and if they pass by some wicked form of enjoyment, they pass by it with dignity. They have all said that this refers to the holidays of the pagans, and in other words, the believers do not even witness. They won't even watch and observe the non-Muslims celebrating their holidays or watch their celebrations. If they won't watch their celebrations, then they will not even more so engage in those celebrations or join them in the celebration of those holidays. So this is one indication of the hurmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing the true believers as those who won't even witness the holidays of the non-Muslims, let alone participate in them. The next evidence comes from the hadith, the authentic hadith collected by Abu Dawood on the authority of Anas, and it is a very strong hadith, and I'd like us to contemplate it together. First of all, we'll mention the hadith. In it, Anas, he said, لما قدم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة أو قدم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة وكان لهم يومان يلعبون فيهما فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما هذان اليومان قالوا يومان كنا نلعب فيهما في الجاهلية فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله قد أبدلكم بهما ما هو خير منهما يوم الفطر ويوم الأضحى. So in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, or Anas, he reported that when the Prophet ﷺ came to Al-Madinah, he found them celebrating two holidays. So he asked them, what are these 2 days that I find you celebrating? They said, these are 2 days that we used to celebrate in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. These are 2 holidays that we used to observe before we became Muslims. He replied, indeed Allah has replaced them with 2 days which are superior to them, the day of sacrifice and the day of fast breaking. So now let us, brothers and sisters, contemplate this hadith together, what the hadith contains and the conclusion that it points to. The first one is that the people who were celebrating these holidays were Muslims. And some of them, if not all of them, were likely recently converted Muslims. So everybody celebrating this holiday, they were Muslims. But they were celebrating a holiday which had nothing to do with Islam and was not legislated by Allah or His Messenger. Because when the Prophet asked them, what are these 2 days? That's an indication, I didn't tell you to celebrate these 2 days. And when they responded, they said, these are 2 days we used to celebrate what? In Jahiliyyah, in the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. They have nothing to do with Islam. The pre-Islamic period of ignorance, they have nothing to do with Islam. And furthermore, there's no indication from the hadith that they were engaging in any unlawful practice. It's not that the Prophet prohibited this celebration because they were doing something haram. They were doing something illegal. Despite the above, new Muslims, probably most of them, if not all of them, celebrating a holiday they celebrated before Islam, and they weren't doing anything haram. Despite all of this, the Prophet forbade them from celebrating these 2 days. He said, "Inna Allaha qad abdalakum." He said, basically, these days that you're celebrating, Allah has replaced them or exchanged them with 2 other days, meaning leave these days and take the days that Allah has given you. He informed them that these 2 days had been replaced by 2 days which were superior to them. That basically, if you continue practicing these days, you are leaving what is better and taking what is worse. That's what the Prophet is implying or indicating. And the use of the word ibdal, the use of the word replacing or exchanging, is significant because it signifies that the 2 sets of holidays, the ones that they were practicing before Islam and the ones that they were given in Islam, they could not be combined. None of us goes to a store, buys a shirt, and it doesn't fit, and we go back and say, I want to exchange this. None of us leaves the store with 2 shirts. We have to give back the shirt that we originally purchased, which was too small, and we take the shirt that when we resized ourselves or we tried it on, it fit better. So we take the shirt that we want and we leave the shirt that was too small. We exchange. So the use of the word exchange by the Prophet here is significant, as the scholars have mentioned, like Ibn Taymiyyah and others, because you can't combine between the thing you exchange and the exchanged item and the one you exchange it for. You can't combine them. One must abandon one and accept the other. And scholars have mentioned that this method of prohibiting by the Prophet using the word ibdal is a clear and unequivocal indication of absolute prohibition. In other words, the Prophet is prohibiting all holidays which are not Islamically legislated, not legislated by Allah and His Messenger. He's prohibiting those and telling the Muslims to practice and observe the holidays of Islam and leave all other holidays. So these are 2 pieces of evidence, brothers and sisters, one from the Quran, one from the Hadith, which indicate that the ruling in Islam regarding holidays is one of prohibition. And we'll have more on this subject because there's another question that we have to answer, and that's the question of, does it matter if it's a religious holiday or not? Does that affect the ruling? We have to address that tomorrow, and we will, inshallah ta'ala. Until then, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless your houses, to bless your spouses, to bless your children, to bless your sources of income and revenue, to bless your day, to bless you and to make you blessed wherever you may be. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.